I told listeners in our first hour of this story today in the News Corp papers. The Albanese government's Race Discrimination Commissioner has expressed his views about Australia Day. Giridharan Sivaraman has said there's an undercurrent of nationalism about the event. The Commissioner made the comments on an SBS podcast suggesting we shouldn't celebrate Australia Day because we're all on stolen land. He said, I feel very conflicted when I think about January 26th because I think, well, what are we celebrating? We want systems and institutions to reflect us, to be safe for us. Why don't they do that? Because they were built to really privilege colonialism and whiteness. And why were they built to do that? Because they were there to cover a lie, the lie that no one was here before. He has told the Saturday Telegraph he backed changing the date of Australia Day, suggesting it had been co-opted by white supremacists. White supremacists? Shadow Attorney General is Andrew Wallace, who's always on the ball with this kind of stuff, and he's on the line now. Andrew, good to talk to you.
Good morning, Luke. Good morning to your listeners.
So you get to January 27, and you know this in the political world, and I know this in the media, and you, in part, you take a breath thinking, well, we got through that predictable rubbish we get each year. Yet we're finding out in an SBS, that coincidentally a taxpayer-funded, I assume, podcast, that this bloke has no interest in the appropriateness of Australia Day. Where does that leave you, or how does that leave you feeling?
Well, I read those comments and I provided a response to the Saturday telly. Look, I mean, clearly Mr. Sivaraman is absolutely out of touch with mainstream Australia. I think the latest poll for Australians wanting to keep Australia Day on the 26th of January was somewhere in the order of 75% plus. I think any politician would love those sort of numbers. But at the end of the day, though, I mean, I just couldn't believe his commentary, particularly around not acknowledging that, or seem to suggesting that Australians think that there was nobody here before 1788. I mean,
Ridiculous.
That just fundamentally, I mean, where has this guy been for the last 30 or 40 years?
Yeah.
33 years ago, the High Court brought down its famous Mabo decision, which rejected that concept. Yeah. And, you know, Australia has come an awful long way since then. But to attack our institutions and to suggest that they somehow perpetuate this colonialism and lie that the land belonged to no one, really, it just attacks our sort of things that make Australia great. You know, we're the envy of the world with our institutions. We've got the separation of powers. We have the rule of law. We have a very, some would disagree with me on this, Luke, but a functional parliamentary democracy. We have a very good court system. We have our public servants that work hard for us. We are the envy of the world. We have a stable government. No matter, governments come and go, but we don't end up in a civil war in Australia. We may not like the outcome, but we live with the outcome. All these things make us great. And this black armband view that continues to perpetuate amongst some of our elites it dismays me, because it is absolutely not in keeping with mainstream Australia.
No, and look, a lot of us celebrate the fact that more of us see the importance of a national day, and there's this other view that, you know, people get together and say, oh, how good, but there are people, lots of us, even little old me, white middle-aged male me, who remembers on that day, who knows that, you know, over the journey things haven't been exactly the way they should have been. We accept that. But I assume this fella, the Race Discrimination Commissioner, has never seen a welcome to country ceremony. Doesn't that in itself, and they're in every major event, indicate that, you know what, before the English arrived, there was something going on? Doesn't that mean that?
I would have thought so, Luke. This guy is obviously totally out of touch.
Yeah.
And anyway, look, I think everyday Australians would see this for what it is. And, we should be calling this sort of stuff out, because unless everyday Australians call this stuff out, then it just these things continue to take a life of their own on.
Yeah.
So we should be heartened by the fact that more than 3/4 of us acknowledge the importance of Australia Day, the 26th of January, and the desire to want to keep it. And that's what was really telling out of the latest polls was that is increasing amongst young people, which is a great thing.
Yeah. And, mate, being in Sydney, I know the anger around Bondi, it's still there. This is what happens in part. I know this simplifies it a little, but when you just kind of ignore the noise you get from the predictable haters, it can end up being something. And people are sick to death of what the country's become. I think that's how it feels in Sydney. Not everyone, but largely that's the case. You don't screw up this great land, provided by, if you want centuries of different cultures, and in more recent times, bravery of men, black and white, who wore the uniform, and women. This is a time where a lot of us are pro-Australia and want to get us back to those great values, and standing in the way of these, at least, as you say, the black armband wearing types. And it's really right. No, it's not the time to be doing this, if there is a time to be doing this. Don't you feel that?
Absolutely. And I think, what I was saying before about our young people, young Australians travel like no one else. And they are able to go to countries all around the world and see the sort of issues and strife that countries have, and then they come back home and they just say, well, how good is this?
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue. And then when they have people constantly beating down on them and trying to, make them feel some degree of shame, I think many Australians have had a gutful, and we should be calling it out at every opportunity.
Well said, sir. Now, when you get to Canberra, can you sort this rabble out? I mean, the thing formerly known as a coalition, can you make it happen again?
Well, look, Luke, absolutely. That is my intention, and it's the intention of many of my colleagues. It's regrettable that the Nats left the coalition. Susan's left the door open to them, and let's just hope that cooler heads prevail and that we get back as soon as we can, because at the end of the day, we're better together, we're stronger together, and we need to get rid of this Albanese government, because it is the worst government in Australian political history.
Hard to argue with that. Thanks, Andrew. Enjoy the weekend. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Luke.
Good on you. Andrew Wallace, Shadow Attorney General.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.